morning and welcome. We're here today to discuss this audible alarms bill, which we believe will protect and make our students safe and even save the life of some of our students.
Thanks for sitting down with Gotham Gazette.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
So the latest things you've got going on in the council, you introduced a resolution today. Will you give us an update on what that was?
Yeah, it's the paid sick leave was introduced a little while ago. The amendments to the original paid sick leave, and as an amendment to that, we were able to get a 6-month period to cure, which allowed small businesses that were the new small businesses to get a 6-month period without fines or fees, while we're doing a robust rollout of education. And we felt that, some of us felt that the Sandy-ravaged businesses needed even more time than that. So today we introduced a piece of legislation that would further amend it to allow for those businesses that could detail that they were ravaged by Sandy to get a year period to cure.
So 6 additional months.
6 additional.
So a year total.
Absolutely.
Okay. And how do you feel like the chances are? I mean,
Well, I feel great. You know, having a conversation with council members like Mark Treger out in Coney Island and Carlos Menchaca in Brooklyn, you know, who have gotten those complaints at their doorstep about Sandy businesses not really getting what they needed. I felt that was necessary. So, you know, sometimes you support. Well, all the time you support your colleagues. And my colleagues really wanted this to happen for those businesses that are in their districts that are disproportionately affected by Sandy. We're kind of inland, so we didn't have that,
right.
But you listen to the pulse of your colleagues, so this was absolutely necessary.
And you don't think there'll be much opposition, if any, from other council members whose districts?
I couldn't really see it. I doubt it. I think that it's a good thing to do. We, you know, as the chair of small business, I have a mandate, which is in line with the Hippocratic Oath, which really says do no harm. And some of the things that just by happenstance happen to do harm. So this bill, without proper oversight and without the necessary amendments as it goes along, could do some harm, and we want to mitigate that early. So I think this is one of the ways that we can foresee that this will be a problem down the road, and we can mitigate it now, and that was what the attempt of the intro was today.
Interesting. So we'll come back to small business maybe in a few minutes, but you also had another big item on your agenda today. You had a press conference about another issue that you're focusing on.
Yeah, we were pretty excited about the press conference today because what it so the bill is the audible alarms bill, which would basically it would alarm all of the outer doors that housed students in pre-K to 5th grade and District 75 schools, which are special education schools. So conceivably, if this bill were in place, Avante Oquendo would still be alive, because what the bill calls for is a local alarm on the outer doors that are not manned by security that would alarm if the seal were broken. So we know in Avante's case that the door was already open, but because of his disability, he was called to the light that was shining through the door. Had that door been open with the alarm on it, conceivably someone would have heard it and closed it. After Avante was gone, if you watch the film, the security officer went and then closed the door. Right? So there's a problem in some schools where students in 5th grade will prop a door open to allow someone to come into the building. So it mitigates 2 circumstances. One is our most vulnerable demographic, which is our young people, pre-kindergarten to 5th grade, and our disabled students from exiting a building unsupervised. Subsequently, after Avante, we had 5 other students who left school buildings and had to fend for themselves in the mean streets of New York. The shocking thing was all 5 of those students were between the age of 4 and 6. Some of them safely made it home to their parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles. We don't want to think about what could have happened to some of those students.
Were any of those students in your district, or
yes.
How did this? Okay.
2 of those cases were in my district. Samir Tally Jasper, who was him and his family was at the press conference today, was the real reason that we pushed so hard after Avante, because his mom just said to me, you know, Rob, can you do something? What power do you have to do something to make sure that this doesn't happen to another family? In his case, he left the school building from a side door as a 4-year-old, went to his dad's house a block away, to his apartment. Now imagine the shock and horror of a father getting a knock on the door, going to the door and seeing his 4-year-old who should clearly be in school. And then when he took him back to school, the school had no idea that he was even gone. So what could have happened in that space of time is unfathomable.
Talk about alarming, yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So the pushback that we've gotten is that it's too expensive. But we did a cost analysis. That school, PS 59, where Samir attends school, did as much of a proactive stance as you could do after a situation happened. That very day, by the time 6 o'clock arrived, the principal had installed those alarms in the building.
Wow.
To the tune of $1,000 to alarm all of the school doors. Mm-hmm. Today we had a broad base of support. We had school safety agents, we had Autism Speaks, and the autistic advocates were out. So everybody could possibly, this is the only time I've ever seen the UFT and as well as the charter advocates stand together on an issue. So that's how important the issue is. To have all of them out together on the podium discussing the safety of our children is monumental.
If there's something that you can bring those folks together on, maybe it's student safety, and that could be a starting point perhaps for other.
That was the statement I made today. I'm like, if we can all stand together on the seriousness and the impact of safety on our children, then this could be a jumping off point for really some consensus around other issues and putting our children first. So this really represented. I called on the media to take a quick glance at who's here and who's advocating for this bill. And those two people who've been adversarial, unfortunately, for quite some time, understood the significance of being it.
Now, on that subject, because it's such a hot topic, what's the situation in your district with education, and how do you feel about, where things are heading with the new administration and the chancellor?
So obviously there's been a lot of talk about the mayor's opposition to some charter. Parents, by and large, that I speak to on a daily basis want their children to be in the best circumstance possible, right? So some people who are not necessarily charter advocates still want the best for their child. So if there's a situation that their child can compete globally, hey, they want to be in that system. And so we're kind of mixing up the languages of what people want. But standard across the board, people want good quality education.
It doesn't seem like most parents really care if it's charter or district. They're interested in what's the best option for my child.
Right. So for us, in my household, I have 6 children. So I have a child in every facet of the Department of Education. I have a child with an IEP who's a special education student. I have a child in gifted and talented, and I have 3 children in charter. So we've, as a family, been able to get a broad look at the offerings of the Department of Education. Every parent should have that opportunity. Every parent should have an opportunity to assess what's available and let those what's available meet the needs of their children, right? So for my child, I'm clear, my child with an IEP, on the early onset of charters, they didn't allow for the education of a child with special needs, right? So obviously my child couldn't participate in that. Then we have a child who's gifted and talented who thrives well in a gifted and talented program. And then we have 3 other children, a set of which are twins, do very well in the charter setting. So every parent should have an opportunity, I believe, to look at and make a choice that best suits their family's needs.